From powerhouse muscle to ultra-rare luxury cruisers, these are the 60 rarest American V8 sedans ever built. Limited production, high-performance beasts, and forgotten legends, each with a story that sets it apart. Buckle up as we dive into some of the rarest four-door American V8 sedans to ever hit the streets. Kicking off the countdown at number 60 is the 1969 AMC Ambassador 390 SST V8 sedan. The 1969 AMC Ambassador 390 SST was the perfect example of a sleeper in executive clothing. Most Ambassadors were tame highway cruisers, but the 390 cubic inch V8 turned it into an unexpected brute. With 315 horsepower and 425 pounds of torque, the AMC Ambassador 390 SST could lay down 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 7.5 seconds. Not bad for a full-size sedan that looked more at home in a boardroom parking lot than on a drag strip. Top speed, 130 miles per hour, which made it one of the fastest four doors of its time. Out of 75,741 Ambassadors built in 1969, only a fraction were optioned with the 390, making them rare finds today. Most of these were daily driven into oblivion, leaving only a handful of survivors. Finding an AMC Ambassador 390 SST in original condition isn't easy, and when they do pop up, expect to shell out $20,000 to $30,000 or more for a pristine one. It may not have the same street cred as a Chevelle or Charger, but the 390 SST was AMC's way of proving they could build a big sedan with serious performance. At number 59, we've got the 1959 DeSoto Fireflight 383 V8. Nearing 1959, DeSoto was on borrowed time, but the company still managed to produce some of the most distinctive sedans of the late 50s. The Fireflight 383 V8 was one of the last full-size DeSotos before Chrysler axed the brand in 1961, and it's a rare sight today. What makes it special? The Fireflight was the top-of-the-line DeSoto before the Adventurer, and this was the first year for the new 383 cubic inch B V8, which became a Mopar staple for decades. In Fireflight trim, it made 325 horsepower with a 4-barrel carburetor, strong numbers for a big luxury sedan. The TorqueFlite push-button automatic transmission was also a standout feature, giving the car a futuristic feel inside. Styling-wise, the 1959 Fireflight had massive tail fins, a bold grille, and tons of chrome, making it one of the flashiest sedans of its time. Production numbers weren't huge. Only 5,481 Fireflight 4-door hardtops were built, and far fewer survive today. These cars are highly collectible, with auction prices ranging from $30,000 for driver quality cars to $70,000 plus for pristine models. Slotting in at number 58 is the 1985 Mercury Marquis LTS 5.0 HO V8 sedan. Ford quietly unleashed something wild in 1985. The Mercury Marquis LTS. This wasn't your granddad's floaty, chrome-laden highway barge. It was a proper sleeper, packing the high-output 5.0-liter V8 straight out of the Mustang GT. That meant 175 horsepower and 275 pounds of torque, giving it a surprising kick for a full-size sedan. Their 0 to 60 sprint took just under 9 seconds, and with a light foot, it could push past 120 miles per hour. What makes it rare? This was a 1-year-only performance package, and Mercury did market it aggressively. While Ford had the LTD LX with the same powertrain, the LTS was even more exclusive. Only about 1,500 units were built before the model vanished, making it one of the rarest factory-built 5.0 sedans from the era. The LTS came with sportier bucket seats, a floor shifter, performance suspension, and a dual exhaust, making it a serious outlier in the luxury sedan world. Prices are all over the place, but expect to see numbers between $12,000 and $20,000. It's a forgotten piece of Mercury's brief flirtation with high-performance sedans. Up next, at number 57, is the 1958 Studebaker President. The 1958 Studebaker President was the company's last attempt at a full-size luxury sedan before financial struggles forced them out of the big car game. While Studebaker was known for unique designs, the President stood out as one of their most refined and powerful sedans of the era. Under the hood, the 289 cubic inch V8 pushed out 225 horsepower with a 4-barrel carb paired with either a 3-speed manual or Flight-O-Matic automatic. Performance was respectable for the time, with Studebaker offering an optional dual exhaust and higher compression heads to squeeze out extra power. The President also featured an independent front suspension, power brakes, and a lightweight unibody design, making it handle better than most full-size American sedans of the era. By 1958, Studebaker was struggling, and production numbers were low. Only a few thousand were built, making surviving Presidents extremely rare today. A well-kept 1958 President can fetch $30,000 plus, with pristine units hitting $50,000, making it a hidden gem in the classic American V8 sedan market. Number 56 is the 1978 Dodge Diplomat 360 E58 sedan. The 1978 Dodge Diplomat 360 E58 was one of the last true sleeper sedans of the late 70s, sneaking muscle car performance into an unassuming mid-sized body. While most Diplomats came with sluggish small block V8s, the E58 police package option turned this into a legit performance sedan, borrowing serious hardware from Mopar's muscle car days. Under the hood sat the E58 360 cubic inch 4-barrel V8, pushing 195 horsepower and 280 pounds of torque. Huge for the smog-choked era. This wasn't just a detuned muscle car motor. It had a high-performance cam, a dual snorkel air cleaner, and a thermal quad carb, making it one of the quickest sedans you could buy in '78. Power hit the pavement through the A727 Torque Flight automatic and an 8.25-inch rear axle, while upgraded suspension and police spec sway bars kept it planted. The '78 Dodge Diplomat 360 E58s were never mass-market cars, and finding one today is nearly impossible. Production numbers for E58-equipped Diplomats remain unclear, but most were police or fleet cars and very few survived. In at number 55 is the 1974 Chrysler Newport 440 TNT V8 sedan. The 1974 Chrysler Newport 440 TNT was a highway bruiser disguised as a luxury sedan. While most Newports came with smaller V8s for effortless cruising, checking the 440 TNT option turned this into a real sleeper. The 7.2-liter big block churned out 275 horsepower and 375 pounds of torque, enough to shove this 4,500-pound sedan to 60 miles per hour in around 7.5 seconds. Not bad for something the size of a city bus. Top speed, 130 miles per hour, which meant it could hang with some muscle cars of the era. Chrysler only built a small number of Newports with the TNT 440 package in 1974, making them tough to find today. This was the last year for true full-size Mopar muscle before emissions choked big engines. The 440 TNT came with dual exhausts, a high-performance cam, and a reinforced suspension, making it one of the best handling big sedans of its time. Most were used as highway cruisers and crushed under rust and neglect. Surviving examples are scarce, with auction prices ranging from $18,000 to $35,000, depending on condition. If you find one with the TNT package intact, you're looking at one of the last big block Chrysler sedans before the horsepower era came crashing down. Coming up next at number 54 is the 1978 Dodge Monaco Police Pursuit 440. If you wanted the baddest police cruiser of the late 70s, the 1978 Dodge Monaco Pursuit 440 was it. This wasn't a civilian-friendly sedan. It was built for high-speed chases and would leave most traffic in the rear view. Under the hood sat the 440 cubic inch V8 tuned specifically for police duty. It cranked out 255 horsepower and a massive 360 pounds of torque, sending this beast to 60 miles per hour in just under 8 seconds. Blazing fast for a full-size sedan of its time. With a top speed of 140 miles per hour, it could keep up with nearly anything short of an exotic. Dodge built the Monaco 440 exclusively for law enforcement, meaning there were no showroom models. It came with heavy-duty suspension, reinforced brakes, an oil cooler, and a calibrated speedometer to handle long, punishing chases. Most were driven hard and retired to the scrapyards, making survivors extremely rare. Less than 500 units are believed to exist today. Finding one in original police spec is nearly impossible, but restored versions occasionally surface, fetching $25,000 to $40,000 at auctions. Slotting in at number 53 is the 2017 Chevrolet SS. The 2017 Chevrolet SS was GM's best-kept secret, a V8 rear-wheel drive muscle sedan that nobody bought, making it one of the rarest and most underrated performance cars in recent history. Like the Pontiac G8 before it, the SS was a rebadged Holden Commodore VF, imported from Australia and blessed with Corvette power under the hood. GM stuffed a 6.2-liter LS3 V8 into the SS, cranking out 415 horsepower and 415 pounds of torque. It was one of the few sedans available with a 6-speed manual transmission, though a 6-speed automatic was also an option. 0 to 60 came in a blistering 4.6 seconds, making it a 4-door muscle car killer. Magnetic ride control, a sport-tuned suspension, and Brembo brakes gave it handling that embarrassed most European sedans, but Chevy never marketed it properly, and sales struggled. Chevy built only 12,924 units over 4 years, and 2017 was the rarest model year, with just 4,008 produced before Holden shut down. As enthusiasts catch on, prices have skyrocketed. Originally sold for around $50,000, pristine 2017 Chevrolet SS sedans now push $60,000 plus, making the SS a future collectible and one of the best sleeper V8 sedans ever built. At number 52 is the 1986 Chevrolet Caprice Classic Brougham 5.0 V8. By 1986, the Caprice Classic Brougham was one of the last true full-size American sedans built for comfort, presence, and old-school V8 power. Under the hood, you got the 5.0-liter 305 cubic inch V8, delivering 165 horsepower and 245 pounds of torque. It wasn't a speed demon, but it had enough grunt to hit 60 miles per hour in around 10 seconds, and cruise at 115 miles per hour with ease. The real draw was its plush, cloud-like ride thanks to GM's soft suspension tuning. What makes it rare? The Brougham package meant extra thick velour seats, a vinyl top, and chrome everything, making it the most luxurious Caprice of the era. It was one of the last full-size GM sedans before front-wheel drive took over in the 90s. Finding a clean 86 Caprice Classic Brougham today is tough. A well-preserved, low-mileage Brougham can fetch $15,000 to $25,000, with mint condition units creeping even higher. Number 51 goes to the Pontiac G8 GT. The Pontiac G8 GT was GM's last great muscle sedan before the brand went under, and it hit hard. Imported from Australia as a rebadged Holden Commodore, the G8 GT packed serious performance into a full-size 4-door, finally giving Pontiac a true rear-wheel drive V8 sedan after decades of front-drive compromises. At its heart was a 6.0-liter LS2 V8, cranking out 361 horsepower and 385 pounds of torque. It was backed by a 6-speed automatic, launching the G8 GT from 0 to 60 in just 5.3 seconds. quicker than many muscle cars of the past. The FE2 sport suspension, Brembo front brakes, and a 50-50 weight distribution made it a legal corner carver, proving that this was far more than a straight-line bruiser. Add in aggressive styling, a mean exhaust note, and a roomy interior, and you had a muscle car disguised as a family sedan. Despite its potential, the G8 GT was a victim of bad timing, killed off when Pontiac shut down in 2010. With just 38,159 units built, clean sedans are now hard to find. Prices have been climbing fast, with low-mileage G8 GTs now pulling over $25,000, as enthusiasts recognize it as one of the last great American muscle V8 sedans. In at number 50 is the 1979 Lincoln Continental Town Car 460 V8 sedan. By the late 70s, big block sedans were dying, but Lincoln refused to give up without a fight. The 1979 Lincoln Continental Town Car packed the legendary 460 cubic inch V8, producing 210 horsepower and 355 pounds of torque. Despite its curb weight of nearly 5,000 pounds, it still managed a 0 to 60 time of around 9 seconds. Not bad for a luxury land yacht. Top speed hovered around 120 miles per hour. But this car wasn't built for speed. It was all about effortless highway cruising. This was the final year for the 460 V8 in a Lincoln sedan, making it a must-have for big block collectors. The engine bay was cavernous. The ride quality was second to none, and the sheer size of this thing made it one of the most imposing sedans of its era. Lincoln built just over 75,000 town cars in '79, but few retained their original big block power plants thanks to fuel crises and emissions regulations. Pristine examples now fetch $20,000 to $35,000, especially if they have low miles and original trim. In the number 49th slot is the 1977 Ford LTD2 Sport 400 V8 sedan. By 1977, Ford was downsizing everything, but the LTD2 Sport still packed a big block punch for those who wanted muscle in a full-size sedan. Under the hood sat the 6.6-liter 400 cubic inch V8, putting out 173 horsepower and 320 pounds of torque. While emissions laws had tamed power output, it still had enough grunt to hit 60 miles per hour in around 9.5 seconds. And cruise at 120 miles per hour. Unlike standard LTD2s, the Sport trim came with a blacked-out grille, sport suspension, and optional bucket seats, making it one of the more unique full-size Fords of the era. Why is it rare? The LTD2 itself was only produced from 1977 to 1979, and most buyers skipped the Sport package, opting for the standard land yacht setup. Fewer than 2,500 sport sedans were built with the 400 V8, and most were scrapped or parted out. Survivors are hard to find, but clean units sell for $12,000 to $22,000, with top-tier restorations occasionally hitting $30,000. At 48, we have the 2004 Mercury Marauder. The Mercury Marauder was Ford's last attempt at a muscle sedan before everything went full-on front-wheel drive and V6 powered. Built from 2003 to 2004, it took the already stout Crown Victoria Police Interceptor and gave it a serious performance boost straight from Ford's SVT playbook. At its heart was a 4.6-liter dual overhead cam modular V8, lifted from the Mustang Mach-1, pushing out 302 horsepower and 318 pounds of torque. It was paired with a 4R75W 4-speed automatic, 3.55 limited slip rear axle, and a suspension tuned for serious highway pulls. Unlike the cushy Grand Marquis, the Marauder had stiffer springs, performance shocks, a Watts Link rear suspension, and big disc brakes. Despite its size, it could hit 60 miles per hour in 6.5 seconds and handled way better than a body-on-frame land yacht should. Only 11,052 units were made, making it a rare find today. Prices have climbed past $25,000 for well-kept units, with low-mileage models going for $40,000. Coming in at 47 is the 1976 Pontiac Bonneville 455 V8 sedan. Come 1976, Pontiac was at the tail end of the big block era, and the Bonneville 455 V8 sedan was one of the last full-size land yachts to get real displacement under the hood. The 7.5-liter 455 cubic inch V8 cranked out 200 horsepower and 330 pounds of torque, moving this 4,500-pound beast from 0 to 60 in around 9 seconds. With a top speed of 120 miles per hour. While smog regulations had choked some of its potential, it still had that signature low-end torque that made highway cruising effortless. What makes it rare? This was the last model year Pontiac offered the 455 in a full-size sedan before the downsizing trend took over. Of the over 60,000 Bonnevilles built in 1976, only a small percentage were ordered with the 455, and even fewer remain untouched today. Many had their engines pulled for muscle car swaps, and the rest were driven into the ground. A survivor-grade Bonneville 455 sedan can fetch between $18,000 and $30,000, with top-tier restorations occasionally crossing the $40,000 mark. In at number 46 is the 1987 Lincoln Continental Givenchy Designer Series. Lincoln in the late 80s had shifted towards luxury over raw V8 power, but the 1987 Continental Givenchy Designer Series was still a serious statement piece. Powered by a 5.0-liter 302 cubic inch V8, it delivered 150 horsepower and 270 pounds of torque, enough for a smooth and respectable 0 to 60 in 10 seconds, with a top speed of around 110 miles per hour. While not a muscle sedan, it had the presence of one, with signature two-tone paint, plush Cartier leather, and electronic digital gauges that screamed high-end 80s luxury. The Givenchy Edition was the final installment of Lincoln's exclusive Designer Series program, and only 2,000 were built in 1987. Unlike the Mark Series, these Continentals didn't get stashed away as collectibles. Most were driven until they fell apart. Today, a pristine Givenchy Continental can fetch $15,000 to $25,000, but finding one in good condition is nearly impossible. Coming in at number 45 is the 1951 Hudson Hornet with twin H-Power. The 1951 Hudson Hornet wasn't just another big American sedan. It was a racing legend. Hudson's step-down design, which dropped the car's floor inside the frame rails, gave it an insanely low center of gravity for the time. This meant this heavyweight could carve corners better than most muscle cars of the 60s, dominating NASCAR from 1951 to 1954. With 43,000 units produced, the 51 Hornet isn't impossibly rare, but finding one with the twin H-Power setup and in pristine condition is a serious challenge. The 308 cubic inch 5.0-liter inline-six with twin H-Power dual carburetors made 160 horsepower in stock form, but that was just the beginning. Hudson dealers and tuners squeezed out over 200 horsepower, giving the Hornet a serious edge over its V8-powered competition. The car had monstrous torque, unitized body construction, making it lighter and stiffer than most full-size sedans, and excellent weight distribution. It handled so well that even seasoned racers struggled to keep up. Today, a twin H-Power Hornet in showroom condition can easily break $100,000 at auctions, especially if it has racing history. At number 44 is the Oldsmobile Aurora First Generation. The first-gen Oldsmobile Aurora was a bold departure from the brand's traditional image, designed to be a high-tech, high-performance luxury sedan that could compete with European rivals. It introduced Oldsmobile's short-lived but impressive North Star-based 4.0-liter dual overhead cam V8, making it one of the most advanced engines ever put in an Olds. This wasn't just another GM sedan. It was a statement car that helped shape the final years of the brand. The Aurora's 4.0-liter V8 cranked out 250 horsepower and 260 pounds of torque, sending power to the front wheels through a 4T80E automatic transmission. While that might not sound like much today, this was a serious engine. an all-aluminum, high-revving dual overhead cam powerhouse based on Cadillac's Northstar. The first-gen Oldsmobile Aurora also featured a rigid unibody structure, four-wheel independent suspension, and speed-sensitive steering, making it one of the best handling front-wheel drive sedans of its time. Despite its performance chops, the Aurora never found mass-market success. Production ended in 1999, and Oldsmobile itself shut down a few years later. Today, clean first-gen Auroras are rare, with pristine examples fetching around $10,000 to $15,000. The first-gen Oldsmobile Aurora might not have had the muscle car appeal of Oldsmobile's past, but the Aurora was a true sleeper, blending futuristic styling with an underrated V8 punch. Slotting in at 43 is the Ford Crown Victoria P2 Panther. The Ford Crown Victoria P2 Panther was the last of the traditional American body-on-frame V8 sedans. While not necessarily rare in total production numbers, certain models like the Police Interceptors and Fleet Spec units have become highly sought after, especially as clean, low-mileage ones become harder to find. These were workhorses, built to take abuse and keep running forever, which makes finding an unmolested one a real challenge. Under the hood, the 4.6-liter modular single overhead cam V8 pumped out 239 horsepower and 287 pounds of torque, sending power to the rear wheels through a 4-speed automatic. The Police Interceptor P71 versions had beefier cooling systems, better suspension, and unique programming that made them even quicker than the standard models. With a limited slip rear differential, revised shift points, and heavy-duty components, these were some of the toughest sedans ever made. Thanks to their durability and cheap maintenance, many of these were driven into the ground. But now, well-preserved P71s and later LX Sport models are climbing in value, with some selling for over $20,000. At number 42 is the 1971 Plymouth Fury Grand Coupe 440 V8. By 1971, the muscle car era was fading fast, but Plymouth gave one last hurrah with the Fury Grand Coupe 440 V8, a full-size sleeper that packed big block power under a massive luxury sedan. This was the final year you could order a 440 cubic inch V8 in a Fury sedan, making it one of the last true high-performance family haulers. What makes it rare? Only 700 units were ever built with the 440, and most were driven into the ground as highway cruisers or police interceptors, meaning survivors are scarce. Under the hood, the 444 barrel cranked out 375 horsepower and 480 pounds of torque when equipped with a high-performance TNT package, backed by a TorqueFlite 727 automatic. The 71 Fury Grand Coupe 440 V8 moved despite its massive size, and with that much torque, it could chirp the tires without breaking a sweat. It arrived with Chrysler's famous Torsionaire suspension, providing a surprisingly composed ride for such a land yacht. These cars rarely surface at auctions, but when they do, prices have been climbing. A well-kept 71 Fury Grand Coupe 440 V8 can fetch upwards of $25,000, with pristine ones pushing $35,000 or more. Number 41 is the 2002 Lincoln LS LSE V8. The 2002 Lincoln LS LSE V8 is one of the biggest what could have been stories in American performance sedan history. Originally, this car was supposed to be something truly special. A 360 horsepower supercharged beast developed in partnership with McLaren Performance Industries. But when MPI was bought out, the new owners had zero interest in working with Ford, leaving Lincoln with a half-finished project and an engine they legally couldn't use. Instead of scrapping the idea completely, Lincoln took the LSE's aggressive McLaren-inspired bodywork, unique bumpers, side skirts, and sportier touches, and built just 500 of these rare V8 sedans. Under the hood, you got the standard 3.9-liter dual overhead cam V8, making 252 horsepower and 267 pounds of torque. Respectable, but still a far cry from what was originally planned. Still, the LSE wasn't just a cosmetic package. It featured a firmer suspension, a performance-tuned exhaust, and a sportier driving feel than the base LS. Paired with a 5-speed automatic and rear-wheel drive, it was one of Lincoln's most engaging sedans. Today, the LSE is a true rarity, often mistaken for a standard LS. Clean units go for $10,000 to $15,000, but finding one is no easy task. Up next at 40 is the 1987 Chrysler Fifth Avenue 318 V8 sedan. By the late 80s, Chrysler's Fifth Avenue was one of the last true old-school luxury sedans, holding on to classic Mopar DNA while the competition went front-wheel drive. What makes the 1987 model rare is that it was the final year the 318 V8 came with a 4-barrel carburetor before the switch to fuel injection. That might not seem like a big deal, but it marked the end of the carbureted V8 era for Chrysler's rear-drive sedans. The 318 cubic inch 5.2-liter V8 wasn't a rocket, but it was reliable, torquey, and made 150 horsepower and 265 pounds of torque, sending power through a TorqueFlite 904 automatic. What set the Fifth Avenue apart was its ride. This was old-school luxury with a soft suspension, tons of sound deadening, and a plush velour interior. It was also one of the last American sedans with a formal, upfront design complete with opera windows and a padded vinyl roof. Production numbers aren't exact, but estimates suggest fewer than 10,000 units were built with the 4-barrel 318 before Chrysler phased it out. These cars are still affordable, with nice units going for $8,000 to $12,000. The number 39 position is the 1976 Dodge Royal Monaco Brougham 440 V8 sedan. If you wanted a full-size Dodge sedan in 1976 with real muscle under the hood, the Royal Monaco Brougham 440 V8 was the only way to go. This was the final year Dodge offered a 440 big block in a luxury sedan, and it was also the last year for the 4-door hardtop body style, making it a true end-of-the-line Mopar. These cars were massive, heavy, and built for the open road. But with the 440 Magnum V8, they had serious grunt. The 440 4-barrel made 275 net horsepower and 375 pounds of torque, a significant drop from its early 70s glory days thanks to emissions regulations, but still enough to move this big beast with authority. Paired with a TorqueFlite 727, the Royal Monaco could cruise effortlessly at highway speeds, making it a favorite for law enforcement and luxury buyers alike. The Brougham trim meant it was fully loaded with plush seating, wood grain accents, and a smooth ride. Production numbers for 440 equipped Broughams are unknown, but they were built in very low numbers, as most buyers opted for smaller engines due to rising gas prices. Today, you can buy a Royal Monaco Brougham 440 V8 for $15,000 to $25,000, but finding one of the original 440s is getting harder every year. At 38 is the 1965 Pontiac Catalina 421 HO. Big sedans weren't just for comfort in the 60s. They could be legitimate street bruisers, and the 1965 Pontiac Catalina 421 HO proved it. This was essentially a muscle car disguised as a full-size family hauler, packing a 420 cubic inch high-output V8 under the hood. Wondering why it's rare? While Pontiac built a lot of Catalinas, only a tiny fraction were ordered with the 421 HO and factory performance upgrades, making these one of the toughest full-size Pontiacs ever made. The 421 HO was no joke. It cranked out 376 horsepower and 461 pounds of torque, making it one of the most powerful full-size sedans of its time. Backed by either a 4-speed manual or an automatic, it could rip through the quarter mile in the high 13-second range, embarrassing many dedicated muscle cars. The suspension was beefed up to handle the power, and it had a no-nonsense look that made it clear this wasn't just a luxury cruiser. Production numbers are scarce, but it's estimated that fewer than 1,500 Catalinas were ordered with the 421HO, making them exceptionally rare. Today, a clean 65 Pontiac Catalina 421HO can fetch $50,000 to $75,000, and finding a sedan version is even harder. Coming in at number 37 is the 1979 Lincoln Versailles 351 Windsor V8 sedan. The 1979 Lincoln Versailles was Ford's first attempt at a luxury compact sedan, and while it didn't sell in huge numbers, it packs some unique features that make it a sleeper classic today. This was the last year for the model, and one of the rarest years you could get it with the 351 Windsor V8, a significant upgrade over the weaker 302. While most Versailles models came with a 302 cubic inch V8, a small batch was ordered with the 351 Windsor, giving it extra torque and highway legs. Exact production numbers are unclear, but it's estimated that fewer than 3,000 units left the factory with the 351 Windsor. The Lincoln Versailles was also one of the first American cars with four-wheel disc brakes, a game changer for a luxury sedan in the late 70s. Performance-wise, the 351 Windsor made around 140 horsepower and 275 pounds of torque, which wasn't crazy fast, but it had solid mid-range power and pulled better than the base engine. The Versailles also had a unique rear suspension setup, giving it a smoother ride than most Fox body Lincolns. Today, finding a 351 equipped Versailles is tough, but they pop up occasionally for $10,000 to $18,000, with mint units pushing $25,000. In the number 36 position is the 1973 Oldsmobile 98 Regency 455 V8 sedan. The 1973 Oldsmobile 98 Regency was one of the most over-the-top luxury sedans of its time. But what makes it collectible is that this was the first year for the Regency trim, a limited production edition built to commemorate Oldsmobile's 75th anniversary. Only 2,000 units were made in 1973, and each came with a special gold plaque with the buyer's name engraved on the dashboard. Under the hood, the 98 packed the legendary 455 cubic inch rocket V8, making a stout 275 net horsepower and 370 pounds of torque. It wasn't built for speed, but that torque meant effortless cruising and the ability to light up the tires if needed. Paired with the turbo hydromatic 400 transmission, it was one of the smoothest big block sedans of its time. Luxury was the name of the game here. Pillow soft velour seats, thick carpeting, power, everything. In a ride so smooth, it felt like floating. Because only 2,000 Regency models were made, finding one today in good shape is rare. Prices range from $12,000 to $22,000, but showroom quality models can break $30,000. Slotting in at number 35 is the 1967 Oldsmobile 98 Luxury Sedan 425 V8. The 1967 Oldsmobile 98 Luxury Sedan was a perfect mix of brute power and high-end comfort. What makes it special? This was one of the last Oldsmobile sedans to pack a 425 cubic inch Super Rocket V8. An engine that was phased out shortly after in favor of the 455. The 425 Super Rocket was a beast, making 375 horsepower and 470 pounds of torque in four-barrel form, giving this nearly 4,500-pound sedan some serious punch. It was paired with the turbo hydromatic 400 automatic, which made for buttery smooth acceleration. Despite its size, this car moved really fast. Inside, it was all about luxury, plush seating, power accessories, and a whisper quiet ride thanks to Oldsmobile's heavy-duty sound insulation. This was also the first year the 98 got hidden windshield wipers, a small but cool detail. Finding a 1967 98 with a 425 is rare. since most people opted for the standard 400 cubic inch engine. Prices for a Oldsmobile 98 in good condition start around $12,000 and go to $18,000, but fully restored versions can hit $30,000 plus. Up next, at 34, is the 1928 Cadillac Series 341 sedan. The 1928 Cadillac Series 341 is one of the most significant pre-war Cadillacs ever built. Why? This was the first year for Cadillac's 341 cubic inch V8, a refined and powerful engine that set new standards for luxury sedans at the time. The 341 V8 made around 90 horsepower, which might not sound like much, but in the late 20s, that was serious performance for a full-size luxury car. Cadillac was already known for its engineering, and the Series 341 came with an advanced 3-speed manual transmission, heavy-duty frame, and elegant coachwork that made it a standout in its class. While Cadillac built over 18,000 Series 341 cars, very few original sedans have survived in good condition. Many were converted into hot rods, scrapped, or modified beyond recognition. A well-preserved Series 341 is worth serious money today, with values ranging from $40,000 for solid drivers to well over $100,000 for concourse quality units. If you want a true piece of American automotive history, the 1928 Cadillac Series 341 is one of the finest V8 sedans from the pre-war era. In at number 33 is the 1979 Pontiac Bonneville 400 V8 sedan. By the late 70s, muscle cars were fading fast, and full-size sedans weren't far behind. Most were getting choked down with smaller engines and emissions equipment, but Pontiac gave buyers one last shot at a real powerhouse in the 1979 Bonneville. While most of these rolled out with the weaker 301 or 350 small blocks, a select few were ordered with the 400 cubic inch V8, making them incredibly rare today. The 6.6-liter Pontiac 400 was rated at 185 horsepower and 320 pounds of torque, numbers that may not sound impressive today, but were solid for the time. More importantly, this was one of the last years you could get a genuine high-torque, big-block V8 in a full-size Pontiac before GM's downsizing took over completely. Paired with a 3-speed TH350 automatic, the 400-equipped Bonneville could pull hard in any gear, making it one of the last true highway bruisers before the era of underpowered sedans took over. Production numbers for 400-equipped Bonnevilles weren't well documented, but they were significantly outnumbered by the 301 and 350 versions. When they show up, clean survivors can sell for upwards of $20,000, with mint condition 79 Pontiac Bonneville 400 V8s climbing even higher in price. At number 32 is the 1971 Dodge Polara 440 Magnum V8. The Dodge Polara wasn't exactly a household name, but those who knew it understood one thing. It was a serious full-size muscle sedan when optioned correctly. Most buyers went for the standard 383 or smaller V8s, but the real prize was the optional 440 Magnum, which transformed this highway cruiser into an unassuming sleeper. Rated at 370 horsepower and a tire-twisting 480 pounds of torque, the 7.2-liter 440 Magnum was the same engine found in performance Dodges like the Charger RT and Coronet Super Bee. The 71 440 Magnum was paired with Chrysler's legendary 727 TorqueFlite automatic, which could handle all the abuse you threw at it. With the right gearing, this big sedan could rip off 14-second quarter-mile times, shocking plenty of smaller muscle cars along the way. What makes the 440 Magnum Polara even rarer is that most of these engines went into law enforcement models, leaving civilian versions extremely hard to find today. While police-spec Polaras pop up occasionally, a civilian 440 Magnum Polara in good condition is a unicorn. At auction, prices for documented original 440 Magnum Polaras can hit easily $30,000 or more. Coming in at number 31 is the 1957 Chevy 210. The 1957 Chevrolet 210 was the perfect middle ground between the bare-bones 150 and the chrome-laden Bel Air. It had the same aggressive styling, the same engine options, and the same performance potential, just without the flashy trim. If you wanted a Tri-5 Chevy that could haul the family during the week and hit the drag strip on the weekend, the 210 was the way to go. What made it special was its access to Chevrolet's hottest engine of the era, the 283 cubic inch Super Turbo Fire V8 with fuel injection. This small block was a game changer, producing 283 horsepower with the legendary 1 horsepower per cubic inch setup. The 210's lighter curb weight over the Bel Air made it a sleeper at the drag strip, where it could run 15-second quarter miles with the right setup. Chevy built over 160,000 210 sports sedans, but finding one with the factory fuel-injected 283 is incredibly rare today. Well-preserved Chevy 210s regularly fetch $50,000 or more at vintage car marketplaces, while high-performance builds go well into six figures. Up next at number 30 is the 1995 Chevrolet Caprice Classic LT1 5.7-liter V8 sedan. The 1995 Chevrolet Caprice Classic was proof that full-size American sedans weren't dead yet. It looked like a typical old-school Chevy four-door, but under the hood, you could get something special. An LT1 5.7-liter V8, the same engine found in the Corvette and Camaro Z28. While the 95 Chevrolet Caprice Classic wasn't as rowdy as those sports cars, it still packed 260 horsepower and 330 pounds of torque, making it one of the strongest full-size sedans of the era. The LT1 Caprice wasn't just about straight-line power. It featured a performance-tuned suspension, a heavy-duty 4L60E automatic transmission, a rear-wheel drive, giving it handling that's surprisingly agile for its size. The car was a favorite among law enforcement, with the 9C1 police package turning it into a genuine pursuit vehicle. But even in civilian form, the LT1 Caprice was no slouch, capable of 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 7 seconds, quick for a big sedan in the mid-90s. By 1996, GM pulled the plug on the full-size Caprice, killing off the last of the big-body rear-drive sedans for years to come. Today, LT1-powered Caprices are gaining traction among collectors, with clean ones selling for $15,000 to $20,000. At number 29 is the 1968 Mercury Park Lane Brougham 428 V8 sedan. Mercury never gets the same muscle car respect as its Ford cousins, but the 1968 Park Lane Brougham proves it deserves more attention. The full-size sleeper packed Ford's 428 cubic inch big block V8, making it one of the strongest luxury sedans of its era. While most buyers went for the smaller 390, those who checked the right boxes ended up with a torque monster that could pull effortlessly at any speed. The 428 was rated at 345 horsepower and 462 pounds of torque, paired with a 3-speed C6 automatic transmission and a 3-to-1 rear axle. This setup gave the Park Lane surprising performance for its size, with enough grunt to move its hefty frame with authority. Mercury's high-compression Super Marauder version of the 428 was an option, but few took advantage of it, making those even rarer today. The Park Lane name disappeared after 1968, replaced by the Monterey and Marquis lines, making this model the last of its kind. Production numbers for 428 equipped sedans weren't high, and finding one with its original drivetrain intact is nearly impossible. Well-kept 68 Park Lane Brahms can bring $25,000 or more at classic car marketplaces. Number 28 is the 1983 Oldsmobile Delta 88 Royale 307 V8. Oldsmobile's full-size sedans were known for comfort, but by 1983, raw horsepower was becoming a thing of the past. The Delta 88 Royale was one of the last body-on-frame Oldsmobiles to offer a proper V8, though by this point, it wasn't about quarter-mile sprints. The 5.0-liter 307 cubic inch V8 was built for smooth highway cruising, and it delivered exactly that. The 307 only made 140 horsepower and 250 pounds of torque, a far outcry from Oldsmobile's big block glory days. However, it was a rock-solid engine, designed to run forever with minimal maintenance. The TH200 4R automatic gave the 83 Delta 88 Royale decent fuel economy for its size, and these cars were comfortable enough to soak up endless miles. While not a performance machine, the 1983 Delta 88 Royale marked the end of an era for Oldsmobile's big V8 powered sedans. Most buyers saw the Delta 88 Royale V8 sedans as daily drivers, meaning few were preserved. A rust-free 1983 Delta 88 Royale with low miles is a rare sight, and values are creeping up, especially for pristine Brougham editions, somewhere around $10,000 to $15,000. At 27, we have the 1969 Chrysler Newport 440 Magnum V8 sedan. Chrysler's full-size sedans were always big, but in 1969, they could be big and brutally fast if you picked the right engine. The Newport was already a massive road yacht, but adding the 440 Magnum transformed it into a true highway missile. While the standard 383 was common, only a small number of Newports left the factory with the high-output 440, making them highly sought after today. With 375 horsepower and 480 pounds of torque, the 440 Magnum packed serious punch. This was the same engine found in the Charger RT, and when shoved into the Newport, it gave the sedan shocking acceleration for its size. The TorqueFlite 727 automatic and 3.23 gears made it a perfect high-speed cruiser, and it could roast the rear tires with ease. The 440 was more commonly found in the sportier 300 or New Yorker, leaving Newport production numbers lower. Finding one today is a serious challenge, especially in original condition. When they do show up at auctions, expect to pay roughly $30,000 or more. At the number 26 spot is the 1972 Cadillac Fleetwood 60 Special. Cadillac was all about effortless power in the early 70s, and the 1972 Fleetwood 60 Special was the peak of American luxury sedans. This wasn't just another plush cruiser. It packed one of the largest displacement V8s ever stuffed into a production car. The monstrous 472 cubic inch 7.7-liter V8 delivered 220 horsepower and a tidal wave of 365 pounds of torque, giving this land yacht unstoppable highway performance. By 1972, Cadillac had fine-tuned the Fleetwood's ride quality to near perfection. The power-assisted steering was so light you could turn it with one finger, and the suspension soaked up road imperfections like they didn't exist. The 72 Fleetwood 60 Special stretched 233 inches long and tipped the scales at over 5,000 pounds, yet it could cruise effortlessly at 80 miles per hour. A turbo-hydromatic 400 transmission handled shifting duties, and a 2.93-to-1 rear axle ratio ensured relaxed highway cruising. What makes the 72 Fleetwood 60 Special rare is its position as one of the last pre-smog era Cadillacs with full-bore power. In 1973, emissions restrictions began strangling output, and displacement would soon drop. Fewer than 16,000 were built, and most lived hard lives as chauffeur-driven limos. Surviving 72 Fleetwood 60 Specials in excellent condition can fetch $20,000 or more, especially with original interiors intact. At number 25 is the 1988 Ford LTD Crown Victoria LX 5.8-liter V8 sedan. The 1988 Ford LTD Crown Victoria LX 5.8-liter V8 sedan was a rare full-size sleeper hiding in plain sight. While most Crown Vics of this era came with the underwhelming 5.0-liter 302 V8, a select few were ordered with the more powerful 5.8-liter 351 V8. This made it one of the most potent versions of Ford's legendary Panther platform sedan, before the 1990s brought detuned engines and stricter emissions controls. The 5.8-liter V8, better known as the 351 Windsor, was a workhorse that Ford had been using in trucks and muscle cars for decades. In the Crown Victoria LX, it put down 180 horsepower and 285 pounds of torque. Numbers that may not seem huge, but gave this big sedan noticeably stronger acceleration and better towing ability than its 5.0-liter powered counterpart. Paired with a 4-speed automatic, the 5.8-liter turned the LTD Crown Vic into a highway bruiser that could cruise effortlessly at high speeds. Despite its potential, the 5.8-liter option was extremely rare, since it was mostly available for fleet buyers and police interceptors. Civilian-owned versions are nearly extinct today. Most were retired from service, driven hard, and scrapped. A clean, low-mileage 1988 Ford LTD Crown Victoria LX 5.8-liter V8 sedan is a unicorn in the collector world, and when they surface, they can easily fetch $15,000 or more. Next at 24 is the 1996 Buick Park Avenue Ultra Supercharged V8. By the mid-90s, big sedans weren't supposed to be fast, but Buick had other plans with the Park Avenue Ultra. This wasn't just a cushy front-wheel drive land yacht. It packed a supercharged 3.8-liter V6 that punched well above its weight. However, some very early 1996 models left the factory with the last of GM's small displacement 4.0-liter L47 Northstar V8s, making them an incredibly rare find today. The supercharged Ultra version was rated at 240 horsepower and 280 pounds of torque, and with the lightweight front-wheel drive layout, it had serious punch off the line. The 4-speed automatic kept shifts smooth, and Buick's Grand Touring suspension package tightened up handling without ruining ride quality. What makes this car collectible isn't just its rarity. It's the fact that it was Buick's last performance-focused luxury sedan before the brand shifted entirely to front-drive V6s. The Northstar-powered versions are virtually extinct, as they were replaced mid-year by the supercharged 3.8. Finding an original 96 Ultra with a V8 is next to impossible. And when they pop up, prices can hit $20,000 plus. At number 23 is the 1977 Chrysler LeBaron Medallion 400 V8. The 1977 Chrysler LeBaron Medallion 400 V8 was a last gasp of big block luxury before downsizing took over. Chrysler designed the LeBaron to be a premium offering, positioned just below the Imperial with all the trappings of a top-tier luxury sedan. What made it stand out wasn't just the plush interior or the faux Rolls-Royce grille. It was the available 400 cubic inch 6.6-liter V8, a torque-rich powerhouse that gave this full-size sedan surprising muscle under all that chrome. The 400 V8, when paired with the standard TorqueFlite 3-speed automatic, delivered 185 horsepower and a hefty 310 pounds of torque. That might seem modest compared to earlier big blocks, but for 1977, when emissions controls were strangling performance, it was still a serious step up from Chrysler's smaller 318 and 360 V8. The LeBaron Medallion's weight, north of 4,000 pounds, meant it wasn't exactly quick off the line, but once rolling, it had effortless highway power, especially with the optional SureGrip limited slip differential. What makes the 1977 Chrysler LeBaron Medallion 400 V8 rare is its status as one of the last big Mopar sedans before the brand's pivot towards smaller, more fuel-efficient models. Most buyers went for the 318 or 360, making 400-power LeBarons a tough find today. Survivor-grade medallions with a 400 V8 can fetch north of $20,000. Slotting into the 22nd position is the 1979 Lincoln Town Car Collector Series 400 V8. The 1979 Lincoln Town Car Collector Series marked the end of the massive body-on-frame luxury sedans before federal fuel regulations forced downsizing. It came fully loaded with a padded vinyl top, gold-accented grille, and a Cartier clock. along with deep pile carpeting and overstuffed seats. The model featured additional sound insulation, making it one of the quietest American sedans of its time. Lincoln built 6,262 units, making it a low production special edition. Under the hood, the 400 cubic inch 6.6 liter V8 produced 159 horsepower and 315 pounds of torque, paired with a C6 3-speed automatic transmission. The 79 Lincoln Town Car Collector Series featured a 2.75-to-1 rear axle ratio, optimized for smooth acceleration and fuel economy at highway speeds. The heavy-duty cooling system and dual exhaust outlets helped manage engine temperatures and improve efficiency. The suspension was engineered for maximum ride comfort, featuring a front double wishbone setup with coil springs and a rear solid axle with air-assisted shocks. Power steering and front disc brakes came standard, ensuring controlled handling despite its size. Well-preserved 79 Lincoln Town Car Collector Series models sell in the $15,000 to $25,000 range, with showroom condition cars reaching $40,000 or more under the hammer. Next, at 21, is the 1982 Cadillac Brome d'Elegance 368 V8. The 1982 Cadillac Brome d'Elegance was among the last full-size rear-wheel drive Cadillacs before the brand shifted towards smaller front-wheel drive models. The d'Elegance trim added deep button pillow top seats, extra sound insulation, and a more refined ride. The 1982 model year was also the last to feature the 368 cubic inch 6.0-liter V8, as Cadillac transitioned to smaller engines afterward. Cadillac didn't release official production numbers for the d'Elegance trim, but total Brome sedan production for 1982 was 45,126 units, making these relatively rare, especially with the 368 V8. The engine powering the 82 Cadillac Brome d'Elegance made 140 horsepower and 265 pounds of torque, paired with the THM 204R 4-speed automatic transmission with overdrive for better highway fuel efficiency. The 368 was known for its torque-heavy power band, but it also had Cadillac's problematic V8 6.4 variable displacement system, which most owners bypassed for reliability. The chassis featured a body-on-frame design, power-assisted steering, and a fully independent front suspension with coil springs. Rear coil springs and a solid axle provided a smooth, cushioned ride. Four-wheel power disc brakes came standard, improving stopping power over previous models. Well-maintained d'Elegance models from 1982 have been selling for $10,000 to $20,000, with top condition survivors exceeding $25,000. At 20, we have the 1976 Ford LTD Landau 460 V8. The 1976 Ford LTD Landau was one of the last big-body Ford sedans before downsizing in the late 70s. The Landau trim added a vinyl roof, wood grain interior accents, and extra soundproofing for a more upscale feel. This model was also one of the last full-size Fords to offer the 460 cubic inch 7.5-liter V8, making it a standout among traditional American sedans. Ford built 191,099 LTD Landau sedans in 1976, but only a fraction came equipped with the optional 460 V8, as the smaller 400 V8 was the base engine. The 460 produced 202 horsepower and 353 pounds of torque, paired with a C6 3-speed automatic transmission. While not a performance car, the 76 Ford LTD Landau delivered strong low-end torque and a smooth power band for highway cruising. The 460 was also a favorite among engine swappers due to its aftermarket potential. The 1976 model year also marked the last run of Ford's big block V8 in a full-size sedan. Current market values range from $8,000 to $15,000, with low mileage cars reaching $20,000 plus. Number 19 is the 1985 Buick LeSabre Limited Collector's Edition 307 V8. The 1985 Buick LeSabre Limited Collector's Edition was a send-off for the rear-wheel drive B-body LeSabre before GM downsized it the following year. The Collector's Edition came with special badging, an upgraded interior, and a more refined ride. It was also the final year for the traditional full-frame LeSabre before it shifted to a unibody platform. Buick built limited numbers of the collector's edition, and it came standard with the Oldsmobile 307 cubic inch 5.0-liter V8, producing 140 horsepower and 250 pounds of torque. The THM 204R 4-speed automatic transmission provided smooth shifts and overdrive for improved fuel economy. The suspension of the 85 Buick LeSabre Limited Collector's Edition was tuned for comfort, featuring coil springs at all four corners, front double wishbones, and a rear solid axle with trailing arms. Power steering and front disc brakes came standard, making it easy to handle despite its size. Collector's Edition LeSabres in good condition typically sell for $7,000 to $12,000, with well-preserved models soaring high above $18,000. Next, at 18 is the 1958 Continental Mark III 430 V8. The 1958 Continental Mark III was one of the largest and heaviest American sedans ever built, tipping the scales at over 5,200 pounds. This was Lincoln's top-tier luxury model, featuring a massive wheelbase, aircraft-inspired dashboard, and power everything: windows, seats, brakes, and even a power-lubricated chassis. The Mark III also introduced quad headlights, a design that became standard across the industry in the late 50s. Production was limited, with only 12,550 sedans built. Under the hood was the 430 cubic inch 7.0-liter MEL Series V8, making 375 horsepower and 490 pounds of torque. Serious numbers for the era. The Mark III was one of the most powerful sedans of its time, capable of mid 9-second 0 to 60 times despite its weight. Power-assisted drum brakes handled stopping duties, while optional air suspension improved ride quality. Due to its low production and massive presence, well-maintained Mark IIIs sell for $40,000 to $70,000, with top-condition cars reaching six figures under the hammer. In at number 17 is the 1975 Buick Electra Deuce and a Quarter. The 1975 Buick Electra Deuce and a Quarter was one of the last full-size Buicks to pack serious displacement before emissions laws strangled horsepower. The Deuce and a Quarter was Buick's luxury flagship, featuring a massive 127-inch wheelbase, a plush interior, and chrome-laden styling. The custom trim added extra soundproofing, premium upholstery, and additional luxury features, making it the most refined Electra of its generation. Buick built 97,294 Electra Deuce and a Quarter Customs in 1975, but not all were equipped with the top-tier 455 cubic inch 7.5-liter V8. This engine delivered 205 horsepower and 345 pounds of torque, paired with a THM 400 3-speed automatic transmission. Despite its emissions-restricted power output, the 455 was a torque monster, providing effortless acceleration from a standstill. The Electra featured a 2.73-to-1 rear axle ratio, optimizing fuel economy while maintaining strong highway passing power. The ride quality of the 75 Buick Electra Deuce and a Quarter Custom was ultra soft, thanks to the full perimeter frame, coil spring suspension at all four corners, and power-assisted steering. The 1975 model year was one of the last before Buick downsized the Electra. Prices for well-preserved Electra Deuce and a Quarter Customs range from $7,000 to $15,000, with low-mileage original condition cars fetching $20,000 plus. Number 16 goes to the 1968 Cadillac Sedan DeVille 472 V8. The 1968 Cadillac Sedan DeVille was a powerhouse in the full-size luxury segment, introducing the legendary 472 cubic inch 7.7-liter V8, the largest production engine Cadillac had ever built at the time. This model year also featured a revised grille, hidden wipers, and upgraded safety features. The Sedan DeVille's interior was loaded with wood grain trim, power accessories, and thick carpeting for a premium feel. Cadillac built 72,662 Sedan DeVilles in 1968, and every one came with the all-new 472 V8, making 375 horsepower and 525 pounds of torque. The engine had a 10.5-to-1 compression ratio, a high-flow 4-barrel carburetor, and a reinforced crankshaft. The THM 400 3-speed automatic transmission sent power to the rear wheels, making the DeVille surprisingly quick for its size. Despite weighing nearly 4,800 pounds, it could hit 0 to 60 in under 8 seconds. Impressive for a luxury sedan. The suspension of the '68 Cadillac sedan DeVille featured front coil springs and independent wishbone setup, while the rear had a solid axle with coil springs, tuned for Cadillac's signature smooth ride. Prices for the '68 Cadillac sedan DeVille range from $10,000 to $25,000, with showroom condition cars selling for $40,000 plus. At number 15 is the 1991 Cadillac Brougham 5.7-liter V8. The 1991 Cadillac Brougham was the last of the old-school body-on-frame rear-wheel drive caddies, essentially the final chapter of the land yacht era. It was one of the most overbuilt and comfortable full-size sedans of its time, with deep pile carpeting, toughed leather seats, and the kind of ride quality that made potholes disappear. The 1991 model featured a refreshed front grille, composite headlights, and a revised rear end, keeping it looking sharp as the brand prepared to downsize. This was also the last year that the Brougham was available with the 5.7-liter 350 cubic inch L05 V8, a serious upgrade over the standard 5.0-liter. The 5.7-liter made 185 horsepower and 300 pounds of torque, paired with the 4L60 4-speed automatic transmission. The 91 Cadillac Brougham wasn't a barn burner, but the extra torque gave it much-needed low-end grunt. The 3.08 rear axle ratio helped the highway cruising, keeping the big caddy effortlessly smooth at 70+ miles per hour. Suspension-wise, the Brougham rode on a full perimeter frame with independent front suspension and a live rear axle, tuned for comfort. Production numbers weren't low, but the 5.7-liter equipped models were far less common than the base 5.0-liter versions. Prices range from $8,000 to $20,000. But pristine low-mileage 5.7-liter Brahms have crossed the $35,000 mark under the hammer. And at number 14 is the 1989 Chevrolet Caprice Classic Brougham LS305 V8. The 1989 Chevrolet Caprice Classic Brougham LS was a rare combination of traditional American full-size comfort with a bit of performance under the hood. The LS trim added a vinyl half roof, wood grain dash, and plush seating, while the Brougham package meant extra insulation for a quieter ride. By the late 80s, Caprice sedans were mostly seen as fleet cars, making well-equipped private owner models much harder to find today. Under the hood, most Caprices came with underpowered V6s or weak small blocks, but the 5.0-liter 305 cubic inch LO3 V8 was the best option available. It made 170 horsepower and 255 pounds of torque, paired with a 4-speed 700R4 automatic transmission. The 305 wasn't a rocket, but it had enough torque to move the 3,800-pound sedan without any hiccups. The chassis of the '89 Chevrolet Caprice Classic Brougham LS featured a full-frame design, coil springs at all 4 corners, and a front sway bar, keeping body roll in check for a car of this size. Power disc brakes up front and drum brakes in the rear handled stopping duties. While Caprices were common, Brougham LS models with the 305 V8 were a rare find. Prices vary wildly, with well-kept models selling between $6,000 and $15,000, while ultra-low mileage examples have topped $25,000. At number 13 is the 1986 Lincoln Town Car Signature Series 5.0-liter V8. The 1986 Lincoln Town Car Signature Series was one of the last full-size sedans to truly embrace the old-school luxury formula. It had a stretched-out 117.3-inch wheelbase, squared-off styling, and a thick, chrome-heavy front grille that made it unmistakable. The Signature Series was the top-level trim, featuring leather seating, wood grain accents, and a premium JBL sound system, all high-end options for the mid-'80s. Unlike earlier town cars, which had big block V8s, the 1986 model was powered by the 5.0-liter 302 cubic inch Windsor V8, making 150 horsepower and 270 pounds of torque. It was paired with the automatic overdrive 4-speed transmission, which helped improve fuel economy while keeping highway cruising smooth. The ride quality of the 86 Lincoln Town Car Signature was what you'd expect from a classic Lincoln. A full-frame chassis with soft coil springs and hydraulic shocks absorbed road imperfections with ease. Production wasn't super low, but well-maintained Signature Series models are getting harder to find. Prices range from $5,000 to $12,000, but ultra-low mileage cars have sold for $20,000 plus at collector auctions. At number 12 is the 2009 Pontiac G8 GXP. The 2009 Pontiac G8 GXP was the last great Pontiac performance sedan, and with just 1,829 units built, it became an instant classic. This wasn't just a rebadged Holden Commodore, it was a 4-door Corvette in disguise. When Pontiac shut down in 2010, the GXP became the fastest, most powerful Pontiac sedan ever made, making it one of the most desirable American 4-doors of the 21st century. At its heart was the LS3 6.2-liter V8, lifted straight from the C6 Corvette, making 415 horsepower and 415 pounds of torque. This wasn't just a big engine thrown into a boat of a sedan. The GXP had a sport-tuned suspension, Brembo front brakes, a limited slip differential, and an available 6-speed manual transmission. That meant 0 to 60 in just 4.5 seconds, faster than most muscle cars of the same era. These cars rarely show up for sale, and when they do, they command $50,000 plus price tags, especially with the manual. Up next, at number 11, is the 1960 Edsel Ranger 352 high-performance sedan. The 1960 Edsel Ranger was the final gasp of the Edsel brand before Ford pulled the plug. But a handful were built with the 352 high-performance V8, making them an oddball sleeper in the classic sedan world. The 352 cubic inch FE V8 packed 300 horsepower, paired with a 3-speed manual or Cruise-O-Matic automatic. The Ranger's unibody construction made it lighter than its Ford counterparts, giving it better straight-line performance. Edsel engineers also fitted power steering, heavy-duty brakes, and optional limited slip differential, making it one of the sportier full-size sedans of its time. With Edsel's reputation in freefall, Ford slashed production to just over 2,800 total 1960 Rangers, but very few got the high-performance 352 package. Surviving examples are scarce, and prices have been creeping up, with rare factory-correct Rangers fetching $30,000 to $40,000 under the hammer. Counting down to number 10 is the Duesenberg 2 Torpedo Sedan. The Duesenberg 2 Torpedo Sedan is a hand-built, ultra-rare luxury car that pays tribute to the original Duesenberg Model J, one of the most prestigious American cars of all time. Built in the late 20th century, fewer than 100 units were produced, each using modern engineering wrapped in 1930s-style coachwork. Unlike most replicas, the Duesenberg 2 was an officially licensed continuation car, built using factory blueprints and original parts whenever possible. Power came from a Ford 7.5-liter 460 cubic inch big block V8, making 375 horsepower and 490 pounds of torque, plenty to move this nearly 5,000-pound luxury behemoth. Unlike its 1930s predecessor, which used a straight 8, the Duesenberg 2 had modern fuel delivery, a 3-speed automatic transmission, and upgraded suspension, making it far more drivable. The Duesenberg 2 Torpedo Sedan was wrapped in a hand-formed aluminum body, and every detail, from the interior woodwork to the massive chrome grille, was period correct. Duesenberg 2s were built in extremely small numbers, making them highly collectible. Unlike original Duesenbergs, which sell for millions, a well-preserved Duesenberg 2 can fetch $250,000 to $500,000 depending on its condition. At number 9 is the 1971 Ford ZD Fairlane 351 K-Code sedan. The 1971 Ford ZD Fairlane 351 K-Code was Australia's answer to American muscle sedans, a front-door bruiser that packed serious V8 power in a lightweight body. Built exclusively for the Australian market, the ZD Fairlane looked like a cross between a Torino and a Galaxy, but came with a performance punch that made it a sleeper on the streets. At its core was a 351 Cleveland K-Code V8 pumping out 300 horsepower, the same engine found in the Falcon GT. Paired with a top-loader 4-speed manual or a C6 automatic, the ZD Fairlane could rip through the quarter mile in the mid-14 seconds. Impressive for a full-size sedan of its time. Ford stiffened the chassis and upgraded the suspension, brakes, and limited slip differential, giving it handling that rivaled some muscle car coupes. With only a handful of genuine K-Code Fairlanes built, they are one of the most collectible Aussie Fords. Prices vary based on condition, but rare factory-correct units have fetched over $33,000, making the 71 Ford ZD Fairlane 351 K-Code a sleeper investment in the classic muscle car sedan world. Number 8 is the 1957 Packard Clipper Country Sedan. By 1957, Packard was on life support, and the Clipper Country Sedan was one of the last models ever produced under the legendary name. With just 869 units built, this was Packard's final attempt at a full-size American luxury wagon, though it was essentially a rebadged Studebaker with some Packard styling cues. Under the hood, the 1957 Clipper packed a 289 cubic inch 4.7-liter V8, the same engine found in the Studebaker Golden Hawk, but detuned to around 210 horsepower for smoother operation. The car featured a Borg-Warren Flight-O-Matic 3-speed automatic transmission, front coil spring suspension, and power steering, making it one of the better handling Packards of its time. Though it lacked the signature straight 8 engines of earlier Packards, it still had a plush ride and well-appointed interior. Because Packard shut down after 1958, this model is among the last of its breed. Prices vary, but a pristine Clipper Country sedan can fetch upwards of $50,000, a small price to pay for a piece of American automotive history. Coming in at number 7 is the 1999 Ford Crown Victoria Cobra Vic. The 1999 Crown Victoria Cobra Vic is the rarest, most hardcore version of the Crown Vic ever made. Full of high-performance driving, turning an ordinary full-size sedan into a street-legal pursuit monster. These weren't just factory tweaks. There was a serious build, designed for high-speed training and track abuse. At the heart of the Cobra Vic was the 4.6-liter dual overhead cam V8 from the 1999 SVT Cobra, cranking out 320 horsepower and 317 pounds of torque, a massive jump over the standard Crown Vic. Power was sent to the rear wheels through a Tremec 5-speed manual transmission, making this the only Crown Vic with a stick shift. The 99 Ford Crown Victoria Cobra Vics built rarely show up for sale, but when they do, they bring serious money, somewhere around $38,000 under the hammer. Sliding in at number 6 is the 1966 Dodge Coronet Hemi 4-door. Dodge built just 5 Hemi-powered 4-door Coronet sedans in 1966, making it one of the rarest Mopars of all time. It wasn't supposed to exist. Dodge was focused on selling Hemis and 2-door muscle cars. But for whatever reason, they dropped a 426 Hemi into a handful of sedans, creating one of the most absurd and collectible family cars in history. The 426 Street Hemi V8 produced 425 horsepower and 490 pounds of torque, paired with either a TorqueFlite 727 automatic or a 4-speed manual. These sedans came with heavy-duty suspension, upgraded cooling, and reinforced unibody construction to handle the torque. Dodge even threw in power disc brakes up front, a rarity for the time. Despite its 4-door layout, it could still run mid-13 seconds in the quarter mile, embarrassing plenty of so-called muscle cars. Of the 5 built, 1 was exported, 1 went to Canada, and 3 stayed in the US, all of which still exist. With so few in existence, values are sky high, with 1 reportedly changing hands for over $500,000. At number 5 is the 2009 Pontiac G8 GT LSP Firehawk. If the G8 GXP was a 4-door Corvette, the G8 GT LSP Firehawk was a full-blown factory hot rod. Built by LSP, short for Street Legal Performance, only 250 units were produced, making it one of the rarest factory-tuned Pontiacs ever. This was more than a badge and stripe package. It was a fire-breathing sedan with serious performance upgrades. Under the hood, LSP ditched the standard G8 GT 6.0-liter L76 V8 and installed an Eaton TVS 1900 supercharger, cranking output to 500 horsepower and 490 pounds of torque. That meant 0 to 60 in just over 4 seconds, quicker than many Hellcats today. SLP also upgraded the suspension, exhaust, wheels, and brakes, making the Firehawk a serious track-capable sedan that could roast tires with ease. With Pontiac's death in 2010, the Firehawk became an instant collector's item. These cars rarely hit the market, and when they do, they fetch $60,000 or more. While the G8 GXP was a powerhouse in its own right, the Firehawk took it to another level, packing the kind of punch that made it one of the hardest-hitting factory-built Pontiacs ever. In the number 4 position is the 1968 Plymouth Fury 3 426 Hemi sedan. The 1968 Plymouth Fury 3 with a factory 426 Hemi is the kind of sedan that makes Mopar fanatics do a double take. This wasn't some mass-produced cruiser. It was a full-size sleeper with one of the most legendary engines of all time. The 426 Hemi V8, rated at 425 horsepower and 490 pounds of torque, made this one of the fastest four-door sedans ever built in the 60s. It could launch to 60 miles per hour in around 5.5 seconds and top out at 140 miles per hour, rivaling actual muscle cars of the era. So why is it nearly impossible to find? Chrysler never officially advertised the Hemi Fury 3, and only a handful believed to be fewer than 10 were ordered with the 426 Hemi. This was a cop car's body with a drag racer's heart, and most were beaten into the ground. Today, if one surfaces, it's an instant six-figure car. Restored examples have hit $150,000 plus at auctions, making this one of the most valuable mid-size Mopars ever built. At number 3 is the 2023 Dodge SRT Charger King Daytona. The 2023 Dodge SRT Charger King Daytona was one of the wildest modern muscle sedans, sending off the Charger's Hemi era with an over-the-top mix of power, exclusivity, and old-school street racing attitude. As part of Dodge's Last Call special editions, it paid tribute to 1970s drag racing legend William Big Willie Robinson, leader of the Brotherhood of Street Racers. Dodge stuffed a supercharged 6.2-liter Hemi high-output V8 under the hood, pushing 807 horsepower and 707 pounds of torque, more than a Demon 170 on pump gas. That power hit the pavement through an 8-speed automatic and a strengthened driveline, launching it from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, with the standard wide-body package keeping it planted. Inside, it was all about nostalgia, with bold Go Mango paint, unique graphics, and an orange-stitched black interior. With just 300 units built, the King Daytona was one of the rarest Chargers ever. MSRP was $98,000, but good luck finding one for that number today. A 2023 Dodge SRT Charger King Daytona recently sold for roughly $189,000 at Meacham Auctions in Indy of 2023. Counting down to number 2 is a 1947 Packard Clipper Custom Super Sedan. The 1947 Packard Clipper Custom Super was one of the last great pre-war American luxury sedans built in extremely low numbers, just 20 units produced. It was the top-tier version of the Clipper lineup, combining Packard's signature craftsmanship with a powerful straight-8 engine. The Custom Super was built for executives and dignitaries, offering handcrafted interiors, high-end materials, and Packard's legendary ride quality. Under the hood was a 356 cubic inch 5.8-liter straight 8, producing 165 horsepower and 292 pounds of torque. Big numbers for that era. This engine was paired with Packard's Ultramatic automatic transmission, a smooth, reliable unit that was ahead of its time. The Clipper Custom Super also featured a robust X-frame chassis, independent front suspension, and hydraulic drum brakes, making it a comfortable cruiser despite its massive size. These cars were known for their whisper-quiet operation, something Packard engineers obsessively refined. With only a handful of survivors, the 1947 Packard Clipper Custom Super is a museum-worthy piece of American automotive history. Most surviving units sit in private collections, and finding one in roadworthy condition is nearly impossible. A properly restored 47 Packard Clipper Custom Super could command well over $100,000, making it one of the rarest and most sought-after Packards of the post-war era. Finally, at number 1 is the 1948 Tucker 48. The Tucker 48 is one of the rarest and most fascinating American V8 sedans, with only 51 units ever made, including the prototype. Designed by Preston Tucker, this revolutionary car was years ahead of its time, featuring cutting-edge safety features, rear engine design, and aerodynamic styling that put everything else in 1948 to shame. Only 51 Tucker 48s were built before the company was shut down under controversial circumstances, making it one of the most collectible post-war American cars ever. Powering the Tucker was a 5.5-liter 334 cubic inch Franklin O335 air-cooled flat 6, borrowed from a helicopter and modified for automotive use. It produced 166 horsepower and 372 pounds of torque, pushing the Tucker to a top speed of 120 miles per hour, unheard of for a full-size sedan in 1948. The rear-mounted engine and fully independent suspension gave it handling and ride quality that put contemporary Cadillacs and Packards to shame. The cord-source 4-speed pre-selector transmission was a weak point, but some cars were later converted to GM automatics for reliability. Innovative safety features included a center-mounted third headlight, the Cyclops eye that turned with the steering wheel, a padded dashboard, and a pop-out windshield designed to eject during a crash. Despite its short-lived production, surviving Tuckers fetch huge money. Tupelo Automotive Museum founder Frank Spain's 1948 Tucker 48 sold for $1,985,000, the third highest price paid for a Tucker and the highest since 2014. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more deep dives into America's most intriguing muscle car history.